Yeah. We are holding in the middle of Kapitel Mem Gimel, right? Oh no, Mem Bais. Yeah. Mem Bais. This is this and the next one is really a continuation.
This is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Really good. And his approach, of course, is interesting. The way we discussed it last time. It's this yearning for the Bais Hamikdosh and the experience of even going up to the Oil Regel, and it's talking about the suffering that we have gone through, and this desire that we want to be able to get back, to Yisrael, to Yerushalayim, to experience that Achdus, and the suffering through not having that. So what's interesting about the Kansipo approach here is that he seems to be saying that we're, in a sense, looking back on the time when we weren't on the level that we are now. A lot of his interpretations are like we're on a higher level, and then we're like looking back to the level that we were on before, and then through that we're trying to come to an even higher level. So it seems to be an advantage to it's this concept we're going to get into about the Yerid L'Tzorach Aliyah. So that you always have to go down in order to go up. So you have to sometimes review, kind of delve into past suffering in order to, through that, come to a high level of rejoicing. So that's the process he's talking about. And Al-Pi Kabbalah, the Arizal's Kabbalah, the whole concept of this, the tzitzis that fell down into the klippas, is this concept of something that died, essentially. There's a certain death that took place, and we're trying to find those remnants of that period that was a high level, and revive it. Like give it life. But they're considered like Tehillim Mason. These were like dead, and now we're going back into the klippas to retrieve them and bring them back to life. So it's a kavanah in the idea of asking for Tehillim Mason. That those things should actually be. So it's a very anyway, so let's get back to it. Maybe we'll be able to get through this next one as well, because it's really all one unit. Okay, so I think Pasuk Zayin, I think. Elakai, you remember exactly? Elakai ulai nafshi tishtoichach, al kain is korach la me'eretz yarden v'chermoinim mehar mitzar. So this is this idea of Aliyah, that when Malchus wants to go, when the Shekhinah wants to go up higher, it has to return to its previous state. It was on a lower level. And it's going to go down back to the idea, the Yisoid of Zer Ampin. The Yisoid is one of the lower spheres, to the idea of a nakuda, in which it's like contracting itself into this point where it's not so expanded and developed and everything. It's going back, and it's also getting back to the essential, getting back to just that original point, which is the essence of the Shekhinah itself. But we talk about returning to the nakuda when it doesn't have anything else, like everything's been taken away from it, all this madrigas has been taken away, and all that's left with is the nakuda. So it's like, but in the other sense, it's like getting rid of all the externals, or getting rid of all of the additional things that are embellishments, let's say, and getting down to the essence of who we are, or what's really going on, and through that, getting ourselves up into a higher point. What happens is that a person gets to a certain point, in terms of personal terms, a person gets to a certain point and they feel like they can't go any higher. They've reached the limit of where they can reach at this point. So the only alternative at that point is to go back down and to retreat into a lower level, and then from there to be able to blossom to an even higher level than before. That's just the process. Okay, so it's going down to it's a concept of being Lilkot Shoshanim. It says in Shira that he goes down to the Ibe Hanachal Lilkot Shoshanim. So it's the idea of going to pick the roses, the idea of the tzitzis, of recapturing those tzitzis. So he has to go back into the three oilams, the lower oilams. And he says, so that's the Lakayalai Nafshi Seishtechach, Shkoyach is like bending down, bowing down to get these nitzitzis out of the klippas. Another idea of getting the nitzitzis out of the klippas is that there's a lot of aspects within the klippas which you would tend to ignore or discount or not see the potential there. Whereas if you look at it, if you go back down into these neglected or rejected madrigas,
things that you didn't see before.
Exactly. So a lot of times, we don't have anywhere else to take from. Because we get up to a high level, and all of a sudden you're looking around for inspiration, like where do I go from here? Then all of a sudden, if you retreat back to those lower levels, very often you can find in things that you never expected to find in those places, that there's really something there that you have missed. And then you go and retrieve it from there, and then you get a new chayas from the very fact that you're going back into things that you...
That sounds very Katschatznik. Very Shabbatian. That they took it to another level, though. Okay. But that was their kavanah, and they're not totally wrong, as we can see, but they took it.
Right.
Shabbatians.
Everything they took and they twisted it, and that's always there's always the element of truth, in every falsehood.
But unfortunately, gave Kabbalah a bad name for 100 years
because it was based on that, but they just twisted and distorted it. Anyway. Okay, so he's saying, each of these things each of these terms then in the pasuk is referring to another one of these oilams. So Eretz Yarden, Mitzar is talking about the Golas and the Klippa. Eretz Yarden, so it's as Korcha, Eretz Yarden, Hermoinim, Hart Mitzar. So I'm going to remember now these three madrigas of Eretz Yarden, Harmonim, Hart Mitzar, which all kind of gullus. So Eretz Yarden is going to get Gvira Shel Klippa. Eretz is so the whatever. So they're talking about Gvira, Malchus and Gvira, which is called Eretz. And then there's Harmonim is going to get the Chesed of Klippa. And Har Mitzar is connected to Tiferes of Klippa. So he's going to those three elements of Chesed, Gvira, and Tiferes in the Klippa. That's what that's referring to.
Also the word Yarden has like the word Yored to like go down.
Yeah, it's true. So these are connected the Chesed, Gvira, Tiferes of Kedusha. So that's another reference to the concept that everything that's in Klippa is connected something in Kedusha. So, according to the Shita, for example, it's brought up. It's exposed a lot in Moreh 9, but it also basically the Baal Shem Tov, the cloud is this concept that every aspect of Klippa is there in order to be ma'oyer. If we're able to identify what is the shoyrish, what's the source of that midah in Kedusha, then the fact that we experience it through the Klippa allows us to open up to that midah and then to turn it around into Kedusha. So that's in the Chabad thing they call that word of iskafia. Or ischapia instead of iskafia. Iskafia is just like getting rid of it, run away from it. And
sort of like
ischapia is elevating it, and also that was realizing that was sent to us as a shaliach to open us up. So because everything in Ruchnis has to be present in Gashmias, otherwise we wouldn't be able to experience in Ruchnis. So the idea that a person has, for example, family, relationships with a mother or a daughter or a wife or children, whatever, all of these are relationships which are intended to open up an experience which then we can apply to the relationships of those types of relationships in the Kedusha. So that's really this whole concept of delving into the klippa to get.
Right, we also understand the concept that the klippas and tumah cannot exist without kedusha.
Right.
It's only really
It's a flip side.
from kedusha.
It's a flip side.
Yeah.
And our whole challenge is to elevate it, not just to run with it. Okay, so anyway, so then Tahoim. Okay, so Tahoim el Tahoim koyr tzin rechu kol mishberechu v'galechu lai avuri. So again, we said that the pshat here is that like one abyss calls to the other abyss. It's like it's a metaphor for this idea that each period of tsuris that we've gone through as a nation or a person as an individual, each one they have a relationship one with the other. That they can pile up and it can get overwhelming just because one's on top of the other. So one is like calling out to the other, like for commiseration and misery loves company and that kind of thing. Individuals can also band together on the basis of their tsuris. They find something in common. So all the waves that come on my head, like this feeling of being overwhelmed by tsuris. Here he says that Tahoim is the idea of Yesod. Also, Yesod is a foundational type of thing. So that's the Yesod of Ema of Bina, which is called Tahoim de La'ela. That's actually the higher form of Ema. So it's calling to the Yesod of Malchus, and there's the Yesod of we know that everything in the spheres in general, so the spheres of Zerach or whatever, the spheres as they're presented normally, is connected. That everything is connected to Malchus. Malchus also has a whole set of its own midas. All the midas are present in Malchus, in the Shechina, and they're also present in Kuchabrichi, in the top thing. So here he says that there's this correspondence going on. There's this calling of one to the other from the massive, from the Zachar to the Nekeva. It's like from Kuchabrichi to Shechinte. There's from the Yesod of the Zerampim is calling out to the Yesod of Malchus. So there's like this communication going on, so to speak. So it's trying to be mamshik, to bring it up and to create a relationship, to create a unification of one with the other. The idea of a tzinner, because the Yesod is the idea of the tzinner, of the pathway, the pipeway that connects the two. The Yesod is always the idea of a connection. So here we're talking about there's a connection now between Yesod and Malchus in terms of it could be just in terms of the tzuris itself. But it's you have to establish the connection first in order to elevate it. You have to connect with somebody before you. A good example of this is the shluchim. Unfortunately, the Goyim also do this. The shluchim will go out to the prisons, right? And they're trying to elevate the prisoners there. So on a bunch of levels, just to give them a good time, let them enjoy themselves, whatever, with a simcha. But on a deeper level, it's establishing a real connection with them when they're in a time of trouble, when they're more vulnerable, and they're much more open to ashpah at that point, because they're not so built up. They're at a low point, and they're looking for some kind of inspiration, some kind of alternatives very often to get out of that. So like Chabadniks or whatever can go in there, and they can establish relationships with them that first of all can help to elevate them when they're in that matzav, and then when they come out also to continue those kinds of relationships. So it's a very big thing when you get established relations at that time. I just heard an amazing story, probably link up to this idea. There was told by the Chabadnik, I just heard this today. There was a fellow, it was amazing. There was a guy. He was he's a cantor in a Reform temple. So unfortunately, he had 3 children, a girl and 2 boys. The 2 boys were killed in a car crash. Terrible tragedy. And he fell apart. So totally fell apart. And he fell into a deep depression. He ended up losing his job. His wife left him with the kid, and he was mamish contemplating suicide. So he decided he's going to commit suicide. That's it, enough already. So he asked his wife if he could take his daughter, for one. He didn't tell her, of course, he planning to do, but he just wanted to say farewell to his daughter. So he decided to take her to a movie. So he said to Hashem, I think. He said to Hashem something like, if you want me to stick around or something like that, I think it was that show me some kind of a sign. So he goes to that. I believe that's what happened. So anyway, so he goes to this movie, and this whole thing was told by originally kind of a flashback, so it makes a little more sense. Anyway, so he goes to this place and he finds he hears Jewish music, and also he gets closer to this theater and he sees that there's a menorah and there's a party going on. So he goes to this. And this guy all of a sudden this guy grabs him and starts dancing with him. And as he's dancing around the menorah, he feels like the flame of the menorah is like giving him life. Like it feels like first of all this is Hashem, showing him he's still there. That he is something, and there is something. It's like a light of hope, whatever. And Mamash brought him out of it to the point where he was ready to make a total transformation. He decided he's not going to do that, and he's going to go forward. And he ended up making whole changes in his life. And he picked himself back up again. He went to therapy, and he brought himself out of it, and he got his job back. I guess I don't know if he got his life back or not, but he got his job back. So then he decided that he was going to change his community. So he went to a realtor and says, "Find me a community. I don't care where I'm going." So the guy says, "So the guy picked him up a place to go." So he goes to this place. Okay, now maybe switch to the other side. So this Chabadnik was at a Shabbos. It was on Shabbos. It was Shabbos Seder, and he sees outside there's a moving truck with some Israelis on a moving truck. So he decides he's going to invite these Israelis in for the Seder. So because they're working on Shabbos. So he said, "Invite them for the Seder." So he invites them in, and they start having a good time. So then, the time's going on, and the guys get nervous. They say, the guy who hired us to move his stuff into this house is coming, and we're here just having a good time, So we're not we're drinking on the job. So he says, so the son of the Chabadnik says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." So he goes out to the guy. He goes out to the street, and the guy's getting on his car with his daughter. And he says, "Welcome to the community. Come over. Have a Shabbos meal with us, whatever." So he said, "Are you Jewish?" So the guy says, "Yes, I'm Jewish. And not only that, I'm a chazan in a Reformed temple. I'm the music director of a Reformed temple." So he says, "So come in, you'll sing some songs with us." So they invite him in, and they and this guy has such a good time. He starts singing and everything. And he stays there the whole night. So after a while, it comes out that what happened was, so this guy comes to, this Chabadnik was giving a sermon once about suffering, and how we have to Hashem for suffering. So he comes to the, so he sees the guy, he's crying the whole time. This guy started coming to the shows, and he was crying the whole time. So he asked him, "Why are you crying?" So he says, "I have to tell the story." So he tells the story about how, he was ready for suicide, and he called out to Hashem, and Hashem, showed him a sign, and he had this. He went to this movie and all thing, and he got revived, and then he decided to come to this community, and then he said again, Hashem, show me a sign if you really mean it. If this what I experienced, that thing was really you. Now, show me that you're really, this is a good thing that I did, and support. And he comes here. What could be more supportive than a guy coming out to meeting me at the driveway and saying, welcome to the community. So that was a really amazing thing. So now you hear about the suffering. So brag about this whole experience. So the rabbi hears this, and all of a sudden he says, jogs something in his memory. He goes to his bookshelf and he pulls out the picture of him dancing with this guy at that Hanukkah party. And what was the story about the Hanukkah party? They were looking. They don't plan things, very great deal of forethought. They had this idea that they would make a party every night. They make a party in a different shopping mall. So they were trying to find a shopping mall. So we'll make a shopping mall. We'll use this shopping mall. So they called the place and they said, it's okay for you to use the shopping mall. I said, sure you want to use the shopping mall? They said, yeah, why not? So they went to the shopping mall and they get there and it's totally closed down. It turns out this shopping mall had gone out of business and everything was closed. All the stores were closed except for this movie theater. So they got there and there was nothing there, there were people. So they figured, well, better go to the movie theater. So we'll cop some people by the movie theater. So, and he was there, and this was one of the only people that came and showed up was this guy. And so he was dancing with this guy himself. So it all came together, and it was just an amazing thing. So it's, you have another Tehillim? So what was the whole point of saying this? That what was it? Why did I have it again? This is the beginning of it.
How Tahom El Tahom.
Yeah. So it was the fact that he something about that he was linking these experiences together, and through going back to the pain of the original experiences, it gave him more chizik than he could have had to begin with. It was like just the fact that he even though now he was in a better place, but he was like bringing himself back. The fact that the Rebbe gave that speech about suffering, and he went back in his mind all this stuff and he put it all together, and then he made even a bigger yichud by finding out that this Rab was really the one who was the Makarim to begin with, and the whole thing was all unified, and that it was all so clearly from Hashem, behind the whole thing. And then, if you would go a step further, which hopefully he did, he would see that if this is true, then the suffering he went through with this, having lost the two children, was also from Hashem. And just like Aaron had to accept the loss of another Avihi and Loyalani, but these things do happen. They have these terrible catastrophes. Yehuda lost two of his sons. People go through catastrophes, but it is mamash from Hashem. But it's for a reason. So when you see how Hashem is helping you out in the good times, so then that gives you physics to be able to accept even things that were from the past, in the bad times. So, so I was talking about this idea of going back and then being able to bring something back up. In other words, bring something from the klippus into the kedusha through that experience of digging back in. It's kind of like a vacuum cleaner. You're going back into the klippus, into the schmutz, into the dirt, and you're schlepping things up from the dirt, from out of the dirt that are worth something. It's the idea the whole mushal of the nitzitz in the klippus is this idea of like the pearls or the diamonds that were spread out into the mud, and you have to go and be assembling them from the mud. So from out of those very dark places.
If a man eats pork deliberately and then later does tshuva shlema ma'ahava on having eaten the pork, he can retroactively elevate the spark in the pig as though it's a full mitzvah. That's Rambam.
Yeah. That's right.
Decades later you can
it's
elevate.
Retroactive,
yeah.
Right. And it says that if a person does tshuva on a particular aveira, that it can go all the way back and clean up the whole thing. If it's really tshuva mahava, it can mamish go back and clean up the whole thing. So I don't know if it's appropriate now to go into this. I did want to get into a little bit this idea of the Shechina and what this whole thing's talking about, the yichud of the Shechina and everything. And maybe I can do it briefly. It's a very, very central thing, and especially learning the sefer like this, where this whole thing is talking about the yichud of panim b'panim, and everything's the highest level of yichud that we can come to. Which also I read recently in the Rizal, that's really the whole tachlis. What he's talking about here, this idea of creating this yichud of the Shechina and Kodesh Baruch Hu in the level of panim b'panim, that as far as Rizal is concerned, that's the highest level we can come to, like this highest yichud of Shabbos. That's what we're striving for. So why is that such a big deal? And what's this whole thing about the yichud of the Shechina and Kodesh? So on my own, there are many madrigas and levels to how a person can envision this and understand how it relates to us. And I'm not, always probably scratching the surface. But for me, it was a very big thing when I realized, what's going on a little bit. Is the idea that we talk about avoided lishma, toilet lishma, and doing mitzvahs lishma. and is that being kind of a selflessness, that we're concerned about doing it for Hashem instead of doing it for ourselves. So what does it mean, doing it for Hashem? And the obvious kasha is, what does Hashem need us for? Hashem has everything. Hashem is complete. Hashem is everything. What does He need us for? So the answer to that question is partially we don't know. I mean, we don't know why Hashem chose to create the world, except that we have certain principles about the teva, toiv, the heitiv, something, if a person wants to give, and melech below am, and there's certain answers that are given for this, but it really doesn't answer. The point is that we don't. It's not for us to figure out why and why Hashem created the world, but what we have to understand is what existence is about. And what we know is that Hashem created the world for the sake of Klal Yisrael. And if Klal Yisrael had not accepted the Torah, Hashem would have basically reversed existence back to nothing. He would have returned the world to Tohu Vavohu. What does that mean? That obviously Hashem knew what was going to happen to begin with, so he knew that the Yidden were going to accept the Torah. But the fact is that if he had known that the Yidden weren't going to accept the Torah, he wouldn't have created the world to begin with. The world was the existence, the totality of existence is predicated on the concept that you're not going to accept the Torah. So what does the Hashem need us to accept the Torah for? Okay, so what is the Shekhinah? The Shekhinah is Hashem's presence in the world. Hashem has the idea is that there's a certain dwelling of Hashem where Hashem becomes perceptible in the world. For example, this guy's experience. He saw Hashem speaking to him. He saw that Hashem was communicating with him directly through the events that happened to him. It was very clear to him. There was no other way of explaining it. This was just, for sure. This was pushing. At least in his mind, it was for sure, no question about it, right? There are times when Hashem reveals himself to us in different ways, in different places, for everybody in a different way, or also to Klal Yisrael. There were certain times in our history that Hashem revealed himself to everybody, and everybody admitted. There's Chris Yamsuf, there's the Makkos, there's the Kabbalah Torah, there's what happened to Shalmaneser. There's various times in history, various nisim, that Hashem is obviously here. So the idea is that Hashem wants to have a connection with us. He didn't just create the world and leave. He created the world, and in order to be connected with us. And the more we bring Hashem into the world, the more Hashem is revealed in the world, the more we create that unification and that unity that He had intended to happen to begin with. But the point is, it's not dry. It's a very, very passionate, emotional, drive thing. It's the whole idea that the mashal, the Metzius, is connected to the idea of Zohar and the Keva, which is the strongest drive which exists. There's an idea that there's a unification of opposites. There's a really dynamic thing going on here, and it's not just about us doing Hashem's roots. Hashem gave us the Torah in order for us to do His roots, so that we would be able to be united with Him. That the tachlis was to become united. The tachlis was not just to have us do what He wants, because He doesn't need us for that. And it says all the way, all over in Nachman, many times. Hashem says explicitly, I don't need you for anything. I'm not asking you because I need something from you. I have everything already. That's not the point. The point is, He wants to have this connection with us. He wants us to have a relationship that we could, He talks about that we should be able to be matayil with Hashem in Gan Eden, like one together. It's hard to say as equals, but it's like Hashem wants us at least to have. It's mind-boggling, but Hashem wants us to have a feeling as if we are on some kind of, we have something in common, we have some kind of equal footing. So what is that commonality that we have with Hashem? The Torah. We connect the Torah to Hashem through the Torah. That is the bond, that is the yesod, that's the connection, that's the das. That is what's connecting us to Hashem, and therefore it's absolutely essential, because without that there is no connection. The only connection that exists without the Torah, even you can't have any connection at all without the Torah, because the Torah is what tells us that Hashem created the world. So even on the level of creation, creator and creation, which is the most basic level, that's the Torah. We need the Torah in order to tell us that. So if Hashem didn't give us the Torah and just made the world, so there would be no concept of who Hashem is in the cloud. It wouldn't be there. So the idea is that, that was sort of the level of that was preceded the Torah, but then the Torah preceded the world also. So even what the Bnei Noach had was also part of the Torah. So the point of the Torah precedes everything. So the Torah is because the Torah is das, and the das that Hashem gave into the world. Right? That's what Torah is in its essence. So the idea is that if Hashem hadn't given das into the world, there would be no concept of man that there is such a thing as God. So there would be no relationship with whatever. But then the relationship through the Torah, the relationship that the Klal Yisrael have with Hashem is such a million times greater, and it's a total other. It's a total different metzias than anything that exists between any other bria and Hashem. So the idea of of the revelation of Hashem and the das and the asubah and the unification of Klal Yisrael and Hashem, meaning the Shekhinah, which is Hashem's good presence in the world, together with the Hashem that transcends the world, that is what its existence is all about. And it's something that is filled with pain, because the fact that we have bechira, we have a choice, means that we can end up rejecting Hashem. And then the pain is inconceivable, because here is Hashem, who is totally, in no self-interest of his own, he has created an entire existence for our sake, and then we reject him. Then we throw him away. We actually rebel against him. We ignore him. We rebel against him. We throw him in the garbage. We insult him. We throw darts at him. We do every possible terrible thing. Or another aspect of what's so tragic is just the ignorance. When you see people who are totally oblivious of Hashem, they go around and as if Hashem doesn't exist, either totally denying him or just thinking he's irrelevant and having no relationship with him, not taking advantage of the potential that's there. So all of these things are extremely painful. So the idea is that any pain that we experience in our lives is only because that pain exists. If that pain was not existent in the relationship between the Shekhinah and Hashem, then there would be no pain in our lives either. And that's why when Mashiach comes and Hashem is totally revealed and everything will be working the way it's supposed to, so then there will be no pain. There will be no suffering, right? It's mamela, but it's not that we're trying to get away from the suffering. For the bunch of the people, they say, "Oh, Mashiach has to come because then we won't suffer anymore." That's not the point. Why won't we suffer anymore? Because all of this stuff will be corrected. We won't have any bechira anymore, but we'll have a relationship the way it was supposed to be to begin with. So how Hashem, chose to work it that way, that we should have bechira and then the bechira should be taken away, but the bechira has to be taken away memela because if Hashem reveals himself, then we're not going to have the bechira anyway. We're going to be having this here. We're going to have a choice. But the point is, we had apparently the whole concept of going through Gullus is that we should go through a significantly long period of time, where by the time we get out of Gullus and come to the point of a Geulah where we don't have bechira anymore, that we'll remember back and we'll appreciate what Geulah means. Right? Because otherwise we would not have it. If we'd never experienced that, then we wouldn't. It's like by the Amish, they have this Rumspringen, they call it. They go out for a year. They're 18 years old. They go out for a year and experience the world. Right? It's so sheltered. They go out and experience the world. And then, the hope is, of course, that they'll come back. And they have their fears, whether they'll come back or not. So the vast majority do come back. Because they see that the world is foolishness. They just don't want any part of it. But there are apparently some that don't. So it's a risk. But they have that choice. They're given that choice. So in a sense, you can say that the goal is like our chance to spring a room. We can jump around and do what we want. And Hashem is hoping that we'll choose to come back to him, but we have the choice, right? So it's a little bit similar.
Chabad say we want Mashiach now. Rav Avigdor Miller, he says we want Mashiach later. We don't want Mashiach. And a case can be made for that. We want Mashiach later. And there's a tension between these two things. On the one hand, we want Hashem's revelation now. On the other hand, Hashem wants to extend the golus and the suffering because it means more reward. Right. So there's a tension. Remember that. We want Mashiach later.
There's the story about the Chinoma Magid. The story about the Chinoma Magid.
Somebody at Akorot. They missed their train, so now an hour late. By Yitzhi.
Yeah, Amshana Rabbi Goy.
The Chernobyl Magid.
They smoke here again.
There's a story about Shlomo Magid that the Kitzer, that he once said the Mashiach came to him, and there's a potential Mashiach in every generation, and he said he wanted to come. He was going around to the Tzaddikim to get permission. They should be masking, but you should come. And he said, no, don't come yet. Because there are some neshamas that need a ticket that didn't get a ticket yet. And if the Mashiach comes too soon, then maybe they won't get a ticket. So there was as he was saying this over, and one of the Rabbanim by the Tish said, how can you do that? All the suffering that we're going to experience, because the Mashiach didn't come, and all this, people dying and everything else, how can you do that? So he said to him something like that. Who says that you're not one of those neshamas that needs a ticket? So, don't jump the gun. The idea is that and we know that most attempts, including so far anyway, the Patriarch's attempt to bring Mashiach maybe before the time, didn't work yet. So, I don't want to say the precautions here, but there is, Hashem has his reasons, put it that way.
There is. Ready in time.
Yeah. So so we're going on here now. So I just wanted to give a little background on the whole idea of this. You'll hear the tape on the website. So we're on Pasuk 9, I guess. Thank you. Okay, so Yoimam Yitzav Hashem Chazdoi V'Lai L'Shira Imi Tefila L'Kel Chayai. So this is like a kind of a consolation that it's saying that now that I'm on the level of Poni B'Ponim, where it's really face to face and it's on that high level, so that's called Yoim. So before we were talking about Taimel Tahoim, that was like the depths of the night. Now we're coming. Now I'm looking at where I'm. So this whole thing was like a backflash. It was like what was happening in the past. But now I'm on the level of Ponim B'Ponim. So it's on the level of Yom, of day, and I'm getting these moichin. I'm getting this inspiration from the level of Chokmah, of Abba, which is also called Yom, day. So Yitzava Hashem Ulai Chazdoi. So now the Chasudim Migulim, and it was the kindness of Hashem which is revealed. Because now that I see the kindness of Hashem as it's been, perhaps when it's been through all the generations and as it exists now, it becomes revealed to me. When I see Hashem's kindness, Hashem's wonderful the chesed that He's done with us and that He does with us and He's doing with us, whatever, that this becomes illuminated for me. And now the Laila Shira Imi. So now in the Gevuros, that in the Laila of the Golis, which is considered like the night, which is the Gevura, which is the strictness, the strength, the strictures. So I'm davening to Hashem, which is the Kel Chayai, to connect the Yesoid with the Zer Ampin, which is called Kel Chayai, and because the Zivik in the Golis is through this idea of Yesoid. So this is which is, he says is the kavanah when we say the achliyav, the sunnah by the seder. That's what it's talking about. So it comes out. Yesoid is also associated with. This is my own little addition here. The Yesoid is associated with the midah of emunah. Emunah is Yesoid. So in the Golis we create the connection through emunah. Because the Golis is a time when you can become totally, desperate, you'll be totally, despairing that you have no eitzah, there's no way out, whatever. So when you get to that point, the only thing that helps is emunah. You come down to the basic of just Emunah Hashem. That's the only way we can continue to connect, because we don't see when we're in the position of inspiration and everything's going well or on a very high level. Then when we see the chesed of Hashem, when we're on a very low level, in the middle of the night, so then you can end up just having to rely on that emunah. But you have to always be building that emunah so that it's there when you need it. Okay. Oimer lekel. Right, exactly. Okay. Oimer lekel sali. It's amazing how much unity there is in Sefer Torah.
Sorry,
all
how much?
These fine things.
How much what?
Unity.
Unity.
In the Sefer, the same concepts come up in different phrases, different phraseology. It's the same ashkocha, the same basic concepts.
Which shows that not only is depth, but it's truth. Because truth is considered consistent.
Right. Although it encompasses a tremendous breadth, but it never becomes monotonous. Anyway, so I'm going to say to Hashem, who is my rock, okay, which is, he says that Sal'i is the site of Chagas Nahi. The Teretz is the whole Zerap in the seven midas are all encompassed in Sal'i, the Gematria there, whatever. So, as Pala Lekel Sheyam Shechamoichin Shel Chagas Shem Sal'i. He's asking, I'm going to ask Hashem, when I'm down and out, that he should extend to me these moichin of Chagas, the Chesed Gvurah Tiferes, that these insights, this illumination, this inspiration, whatever, he should bring it down to me. I'm going to ask him for it.
What is Sali?
Sali is literally, it means the rock, my rock. Because the whole reason why I had to go through this gullus, as we said before, this whole drusha basically, is in order to elevate the Maim Nikvin. That we should desire him. Because I didn't explain this well enough. The idea is that the whole thing about this, the whole idea of Zoch and Nekeva, this whole thing is talking about. Sphere Soimer from 770. Anyway, the idea is that every night, the idea is that the whole thing of this, comparing it to a female-male relationship, is that this idea that the female desires the male. Right? This is a stoikicus. This is idea that she wants to attract his attention and she wants to bring him down to her level, whatever, and to create that unity. So the idea is that there's always this reaching out. So that is, and we as being the Shekhinah, as being the feminine aspect, and Kali as being the feminine aspect of Klapi Hashem, we're always reaching out to Hashem. Please come down to us. Please raise us up. Please, give us that. We're beseeching Him. We're desiring Him. We want to seek this unification. So that's this idea of the Maim Nikvin. So again, you have to be lacking something in order to desire it. You have to feel the lack of self-sufficiency. To feel that we're not self-sufficient, that we need something outside of ourselves to reach this completion. And that is this Maim Nikvin. So the gullus, where we're feeling this tremendous lack, that we don't have everything, is what's really causing and inspiring the necessity of asking for something to bending down to us. And so we're also asking. So we're saying lama shechaktani lama keda elek lachatz oye. So we're also saying, why do we have to have so much nisira? We're asking Hashem should decrease the suffering. That's another aspect of calling out to Hashem. Even if we're just calling out that we should have less suffering because the person is very sick or whatever, he's really lousy. So the simplest way for him to connect to Hashem is simply asking for him to rescue him from his tzuras. So that's also part of the goals. So again, we reach out to the Hashem on this very basic, survival level, but that leads to a connection, and then we can build on that, to go to higher levels. And then when the suffering is taken away, hopefully we won't forget about Hashem, and we'll reach higher levels and seeing His kindness as well as and rejoicing in the good times, and not just because of the tzuras. So then he says that the Odom, the Sitra Achra, that there's this the son of Mem, the Sitra Achra, whatever, that was controlling the person in the bad times in order to control him. Now this same Sitra Achra has been elevated through the Yesirim, that we if we survived and endured the Yesirim, the Kedusha, that we accepted it on ourselves and didn't rebel against it, whatever, then we're transforming that Sitra Achra that wanted the Yetzer Hara, that wanted to control us. Instead, we're redeeming the Sitra Achra also. We're actually elevating the Sitra Achra itself. So that is also becoming something that's now becoming a Davar Kedusha. So that's beretzach be'atzmoisach afinit soyrayv omer malai kol hayom ela ayeh lekecha. So now he's going back again to this taina of the goyim. Where's your God? Where is he? I don't see him. You're suffering so much. It must be that he abandoned you, right? So we're saying with that, it says that my nechoma, my consolation is that I'm going to take out all of these Reish Pei Ches Netzitzis. It's Cherfuni is referring to the 248 284. 288. Reish Pei Ches. 288. It's Netzitzis. It's not the Ramach Ivan. It's another cheshbon. that are the netzitzis, that are from the punim, he says, that are trapped in the klippas. So those things that we know that those things are going to be ultimately redeemed and ultimately revealed, whatever, and returned to the kedusha. That's going to be such a big simcha. That's going to be a nechama on all of these terrible things that have happened till now. So then we kind of ask ourselves, so because I know, I'm so sure that that's going to happen in the end, so that makes me feel like, well, why I'm even asking myself. I know that this is going to happen. I've experienced times of inspiration, good times already. I know that's going to return, and now I shouldn't even be asking myself, why I'm so in such bad shape right now. I'm ultimately going to come out of this.
The taunts of the Goyim, where they say, Kol hayom ayei Elokecha, where is your God?
Right.
On the 20th of Tammuz 1941, the Nazis ordered the Jewish inhabitants of Telch, Lithuania, to dig their own graves. As they stood in their open pits, the Rav and Rosh Yeshiva of Telch, Hagon Rav Abraham Yitzhak Bloch, led the martyrs of his community in their final declaration of eternal faith, the Shema. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The Nazi beasts gleefully taunted the rabbi, "Where is your God now?" The Rav replied courageously, "Not only is he my God, he is also your God, Nazi, and the day will come when you will realize it."